Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to RobMotive. Today is the beginning of lighting day for the Toyota Tacoma. I'm going to put a light bar across the top of the sport bar. There are a couple of bolts that you can screw through. So I made a bar. It's just angle iron, really, or square rod. I don't even know what you call it. But anyway, I painted it, I primed it, all that stuff, and then I've laid out the lights. And by the way, these lights, the 6 that you see, 3 on each end, are from Harbor Freight. They're called Road Shock. The 2 in the middle are from Lasfit. They're pretty awesome lights. They seem to be pretty stout to me, so I like the way they're designed. And they should be pretty good, a little bit more robust, if you will, than the ones I got from Harbor Freight. We'll see. Maybe I'll end up replacing all of them with these Lasfit lights. I just had these 2. They sent me these 2. So we're going to put those on. Now, first thing I have to do is make sure that I can actually reach the bolts. It's in the 4th position right here on each side to be able to screw into my sport bar. So I want to make sure they're long enough. I'll check that out. And then we've got to put all the brackets on all the way across the way that I have this thing spaced out. So next will be to go ahead and put those in. And of course decide which way they need to go. They're always different. They can't just be straight up and down, right? So we're going to put those on after I make sure that my bar fits. So let me make sure that, or I should say that I have the right hardware, that I can get the bolt down through there to be able to screw them on. I checked and it does fit the bolts rather long enough through the holes on the sport bar, so I'm set there. Now I did have to run to Lowe's, you know, because the screws that came with this kit, these are not long enough unless I tried to fish a nut or something inside here, and good luck at doing that all the way through. There's no way. So I decided to go get longer bolts so that I could fasten them down here, and these bolts should be hidden in between the sport bars. There's a gap where this bar is going to fit, and those bolts should be down in between, so you're never going to see them unless you look in from the side. So now what I have to do is mount every one of these brackets that are going to hold the lights so that I can go ahead and get the lights mounted and then start the wiring. Okay, we've got all of the lights mounted loosely so I can adjust them once they're up on top of the truck. I did decide to go with the 2 Lasfit lights in the middle because they're different than the others, so I could have put them end to end. Definitely didn't want to mix them in between. But I think it'll look good like that, so we shall see. Next up is to create a wiring harness, because what I'm going to do is have one wire that goes to power, and each one of these, via their own connectors, so I can change them out if I ever had to, will go into that wire and then plug into each light. That's the plan anyway. So I'm going to use an old wiring harness, I think. I have something, let's see, in the workbench here, one of these, or maybe this one, whichever one is 16 gauge. I calculated that the draw is going to be about 10 amps, a little over 10 amps, something like that, so I should be able to get away with 16 gauge wire because it goes up to, I believe, 15 amps, so I should be good, and then I'll run a 15 amp fuse, of course. After hours and hours of splicing and connecting, I'm done. I basically made my own wiring harness. Let's take a look. You can see the lights are still mounted. And this is my wiring harness that I made. This end will connect to power, and then it will feed everything all the way down to the end, right? Now, I connected plugs because I wanted to be able to unplug the lights individually should a light ever go bad. I don't have to cut wires. It'd be very simple to replace. Unbolt it and stick a new light in. Pretty darn simple. I will have this plugging into the other end on this wire. And that would make it easy to just pull apart, of course, and take the whole thing off if I want to. this is going to go onto the wiring at the top that comes out of the sport bar. Now it's time to move on to the truck itself. We're going to start, or actually I've already done, the connection for the light bar, or the lights. This is my harness here. This is one end of the connection, and the other end is hanging right up there. I just connected it to the wire that I had run through the bar down over to there. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and connect up those two wires. Pretty simple, right? Just two connectors, solder seal them together, put some cover over them, and be done with it. And then we're going to get to the interesting part, and that is mounting the bar up on top and ultimately testing the lights. One thing that I do have to kind of be mindful of, I guess, is I have all this wire. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, so I got to figure that out too. Okay, what I'm going to do for this, I'm going to put some spacers in. They're just black nuts between the light bar and the hole that they're going to go through, the holder. That's to get the bar up in the air a little bit. First, I need to see how many I can actually put in. So I'm going to go ahead and slip a bolt in there. And I have to see, actually what I should do first is make sure that these bolts even fit. They do, but barely. I'd have been smarter to go with a little bit shorter, or rather narrow bolt, but you know, I didn't. And they barely fit in the bar as well, but at least they fit, so that's a good thing. Alright, let's see. How do I want to do this? I think I'm going to go ahead and take a gamble and put two nuts on to start with, just to see. I think they're going to fit okay. I think they're going to get me up in the air where I want to be. I hope, anyway. So, and it would be smart, I guess, to do both sides, since once it's in, it's kind of in. So let's go ahead and get the other side going as well. Chances are the bolts will probably go flying, because that's how it usually goes when I do stuff like this. So I don't know about you guys, but that's how my life usually works. Surprised I haven't dropped one already. And this thing is rather heavy, I will say. Well, it does fit. That's a good thing. Now, how much space do I have underneath is another question, to go ahead and put some nuts and a lock washer and all that kind of stuff. It does lean a little bit forward, but that's okay because I can adjust the lights however I want. So it doesn't necessarily matter how the bar itself leans. There's not a ton of room left under there, so I'm going to see if I can thread a washer and a lock nut, and then of course the nut. Okay, I've got everything set. I ended up winding the wires around a couple of times, and that's in hopes of shortening the length underneath, because of my massively long wiring harness, so still have to contend with that. But now I'm ready to kind of pull this thing up into place, hopefully, and tighten it down, and then we'll be connecting up the wires. All right, I am finished, finally. About a good solid 2 days of work days for me on this project. The wiring is up there, everything is connected. I haven't tested it yet. I'm confident that it's going to work. You can see this is how I've got everything tied down with zip ties, a little bit of wire loom. I'm not real thrilled with the way the wiring is, but there's just so much of it. Probably my fault because I made the wiring loom, right? But anyway, it's done. Everything is tucked up here nicely, and nobody's ever going to notice it but me. Over here, we've got the wire inside of some loom that runs up to the front. Again, nobody's ever going to notice it but me, but there it is. So, the last thing to do is to bring it in the garage, flip it around. It's light out, so obviously I can't shine it in the dark. I will show it in the dark though. We're gonna have a light show coming up. But anyway, I'm gonna flip it around, turn it on. You guys can see what it looks like, at least in here. And I need to make sure it actually works. And then I want to see what's actually on. So, and oh wow, it's bright standing up here. The truck is not level, but they are definitely all on. Whew. Gonna have to check those out at night to try to aim them, make sure that they're right. I just took a guess, so I really don't know. But they all work, and they're still working. So that's awesome. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'd be curious to know. I'm seeing spots. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.